there, and thank you for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. My name is Tracy Martins, and I'm your host today. And I have with me Jill Moysiuk, who is momsaidduck if you follow her on social media. Hey there, how's it going?
Good, Tracy, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Now, as a mom, we all say more than duck most of the time.
Yep.
So what made you start momsaidduck?
So momsaidduck is like a really serendipitous story, and it's kind of a long one, so bear with me. But so in 2018, I went on a maternity leave for my son. It was our second. And everything was great, all was well. I took an 18-month maternity leave. And then when I was returning to go back to work, 5 days before I was returning to work, I was told I no longer had a job to go back to, that the woman who replaced my maternity leave would now be taking over my position. And so I was obviously in shock. I was kind of like climbing the corporate ladder at that point. I was ready to kind of get my, take off my yoga pants and put my big girl pants back on kind of thing, have adult conversation again. And instead, I was just sort of, at a halt, and I had to sort of just stop what I was doing and kind of move backward in life kind of thing, where I thought I would be moving forward. And so after I found that news out, I'm a really emotional person. I'm a really passionate person by nature. And so it wasn't like I chose to let myself feel the feelings, but I cried for 5 days straight. Like 5 days straight, I cried.
Blame you.
It was horrible. It was really crappy what happened, right? And so, so for 5 days I cried. And then eventually kind of started coming to. But what was interesting in the literal moment that I found out that I wasn't going to be going back to my job, I knew that the only experience that I had was in what I was doing, labor relations, HR. But I knew right then and there that I wasn't going to go back to that. I don't know why. I just had this feeling in my gut that, we live in, in Windsor. There's lots of opportunity for that kind of thing. It didn't have to be with the same company, but there was the thought of me going back into labor relations, HR, just in time, unionized environments, all of this kind of stuff made me physically sick to think about doing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to listen to my heart, and I'm just going to kind of let it guide me. Mm-hmm. And then, so of course, after 5 days, I started kind of like venturing out into life again and all this kind of stuff. And I was kind of like pushing through and whatever, and then kind of like looking around at different things I could do, in my next phase of my life, because I knew that I wasn't going back to what I was doing before. And so my mom actually came over to my house, and she threw a book at me. A book that I had written when I was a little kid. And I was like, what is this? And caveat to this story is that my mom didn't keep anything of mine from when I was a kid. Anything. Like, it's like I lived in like black and white photos time. Like, there's no photos of me as a kid. And so the fact that she had kept something of mine, I was like amazed by this.
Why did she keep it, or did it get just stuck in between something?
No idea. So, and like, it's so funny because my husband's mom has like kept everything, like to this day, she'll still give me things that looks like my like little guy did it kind of like yesterday kind of thing. Like, it's so well kept. And then meanwhile, I have nothing, so it's kind of something I've always sort of teased my mom about. And then, so she threw this book at me, and she's who I get my sarcasm from. So she literally just tossed the book at me kind of thing. And I'm like, what the hell is this thing? So she's like, I don't know. It's something that you wrote when you were a little kid. She's like, it's pretty good, read it. So I read it, and I was like, oh my God, this book is really good. It's called What's Good for a 10-Year-Old. And it was a book that I had written and I had drawn pictures for, and it was a rhyming book. And it was just like so good. I just couldn't get over how good this little book was that I had written when I was 10.
Well, okay, I'm gonna stop you there. What was good for a 10-year-old?
It was, it's funny. It's like all stuff that, I included my like my mom's one of 12 kids, and I'm really close with all of my cousins and stuff like that. And so the whole book related to things around my family, which was really cute too. So I was rhyming things with my aunts and uncles' names and my cousins and all that stuff. It was really cute. Yeah. And then, so I'm reading this book, and I'm just like amazed that I had written this. And like a caveat to this is that I had always said that I don't have a creative bone in my body. always. That's like a tagline. So anytime something about art comes up or whatever, I'm always like, oh, I don't have a creative bone. Don't ask me, I don't have a creative bone in my butt. It's always what I said. So then I'm reading this book that I wrote as a 10-year-old, and I'm like, hold on a second. I do have a creative bone in my body. It was just, I was a 10-year-old when when I was still kind of creative or thought that I was anyway.
You just forgot you were.
I forgot, or like it had gotten beaten out of me at some point over the course of my life, something, right?
HR will do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so then from there, I just like that whole day, I just like kept like locking myself in the bathroom, going to my bedroom, like reading this book over and over. I just like couldn't get enough of this book. So the next morning, our little guy, Edison, he was about, like, I don't know, around 18 months, 2 years old, somewhere around there. And so he was at our bedside. And so I pulled him in bed with us because, of course, he comes to mom's side, not dad's side.
Always.
Right? And so I pull him in bed with us, put him between us, and then he falls back to sleep. My husband's still sleeping. And as he's falling back to sleep, I was massaging his little toes. And so I was massaging his toes, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I could create a little poem about his body, like I had written in this book, kind of thing, this little rhyming book that I had written. And then so sure enough, I came up with this poem that I had written. And it was like good. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. That was pretty cute and clever. So then I wrote it, grabbed my phone from my bedstand, wrote it on my phone. And then my husband woke up and I was like, I read it to him. Like, what do you think? And he's like, that was pretty good. That was pretty cute. And I'm like, oh my God, it was really cute, right? So then I just couldn't stop telling everybody about this poem. And I was reading it to anybody who would listen. I'm like walking down the street, like, you want to hear this poem? Like kind of thing. And then so from there, after about a week or so, it was like, all of a sudden I'm like, just like sitting at the table with like an old laptop. And I just started writing poems. And so I like, after probably 2 weeks or so, I had like 3 or 4 poems. And after a month, so after like a few months, I've probably got like 30 of these poems. And what I'm realizing is that they all relate to being a mom. And they're all very sort of poignant poems. And so they're just sort of like day-to-day kind of frustration type stuff about being a mom type poems. And so it was just kind of a funny thing to do, whatever, no big deal. I guess it was kind of like a release I didn't know I needed, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so now fast forward, my husband and I are going to get some last minute gifts for our kids for Christmas. My mom came over to babysit for us. It was when Moxie's was still open, must have been their last season. And so instead of going shopping, of course, we went to Moxie's and grabbed a drink instead.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Mom. And so while we're there, I said to my husband, what am I going to do? Like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. Who am I? Kind of thing, It was kind of like I'm realizing at this point, like who I was my career, and yet I didn't even like the career I was in. Like, it was just this weird.
That's the worst thing.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is, and so many people, I feel like after that happened to me, I'm realizing more and more people have this sort of.
It's the pre-midlife crisis.
It is. I call it my quarter life crisis. I called it my quarter life crisis.
Well,
yeah.
how old were you?
I'm 40 now, so it was like. It was probably, I was 35 when it happened.
I find between 31 and 35 is a very weird transition where it's like, I'm not that kid anymore, but yet I don't feel like an adult, but and
you're just kind of trying to find your place, right? You like realize that life isn't going to go on forever and that kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, so we're sitting there and we're having a drink, and I said, what am I going to do? And so my husband said, well, why don't you try to pursue these poems? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he said, so I work out with this person who calls himself a creative coach. Why don't you meet up with them? So I ended up meeting up with this person at Anchor Coffee House, of all places. And so I was chatting with her, and she read one of my poems and started laughing because it was talking about poop and diapers and whatever, and corn and my kids' poop and all this kind of weird stuff, right? And so she's laughing and she's reading and she's like, oh my God, this is like so different or whatever, So I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've always said I'm not creative. I'm definitely technologically unsavvy, if that's a word. So she's like, here's what I think you need to do. You need to start a newsletter. You need to, go on your Facebook, tell everybody you're starting a newsletter, see if people will sign up, and then decide how often you think you can write a poem. And so I said, I think I can do one every week, because at this point I'm like just writing like crazy. So I decided to come up with something called Fresh Poem Friday. And so every Friday for the past 4 years, I've been sending out a new poem to my Fresh Poem Friday subscribers. And that's been wonderful and lovely, and it's been great. And I've had such wonderful feedback and all that kind of stuff. But over the course of that, I kind of realized like something was missing. This was during the pandemic now. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to say I love to say my poems. So where can I say my poems? So COVID, you couldn't go out and do anything anywhere. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll do a podcast. Everybody's doing a podcast. I'll do a podcast. And so I started a podcast and recorded most of my poems at MediaWorks Studio in Windsor. And loved it, like absolutely loved it. Every time I got to go in and record poems, I loved it. Yeah. And it was great. And so I would put them out and it was great. And they live still on Spotify and Apple and all those places that you listen to podcasts, which is great. But it was like, there was still something missing and I couldn't figure out what that thing was. And then kind of like over the evolution of the past 4 years, I've kind of come to realize that what I think is missing or I thought was missing was people. Humans. I sort of thrive on other people's energy. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I need to say my poems to people. So I'm like, okay, so how can I do that? Well, turns out nobody wants to hire a funny mom poet. This is not a thing yet.
Come on, corn poop is funny,
right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, okay, so nobody wants to hire a funny mom poet. Fair. So I had to kind of like, trudge my own path or whatever. So I'm like, what can I do? And so this is going to sound so corny, but I kept going back to, I had this like little note next to my computer at home. And it said, it was a Beyonce quote. And it was, build your own stage and make them see you. And so I kept saying that to myself. How can I do this? How can I make people see me? And it's not me, it's my art, it's my poems that I'm the most proud of. So I want people to see it and to hear it. And so I didn't know what to do. And then so I thought, okay, well, I've spent all my family's money so far on this. How can I sort of like get some help with this? Because I don't want to put all this time and money and energy into something and keep draining our family's finances for this. What can I do? And so I thought, you know what? The City of Windsor has this awesome program through the Arts Council Heritage Fund, ACHF grant program. And so I applied for it and I figured because grant writing is sort of an art in and of itself that it was going to be something that I wouldn't have gotten. I would have kind of learned some things along the way and then, reapply again. But I ended up getting a grant. It wasn't for the full amount that I had reached out for, but it was for half. And I thought, okay, I can do something with $2,500. And so, so then I thought, okay, so I want to say my poems to an audience of people. And my husband's office is actually right next to the Cortisone Theater. And so, and we actually purchased the space. And so when the day we closed on that space, I looked at him, this was in 2021, and I looked at him and said, I like grabbed his hand, walked him over to the theater, and I was like, you see that theater? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to say my poems there. This is why we got this space. Like I'm a big believer in the universe. And so he's like, yeah, kind of like he's the grounded one. I'm the floaty one, kind of thing. And so he's like, whatever, Jill, sure. If that's what you want to do or whatever. So then, yeah, that's kind of how it worked. So I got the grant and, asked Corda if I could go and do my thing there. And they were happy to have me and all that stuff. So I'll be saying my poems on a stage to humans on Friday, May 10th.
And it's already sold out. It sold out the day after you put it on Instagram, which is amazing.
Yeah, the very next day. Yeah.
Now, you said that you do poems every Friday. How many people do you have on your list?
Yeah, so it kind of like goes up and down. It fluctuates, right? Some people will unsubscribe, some people will subscribe kind of thing. So it's about 250 right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For poems, for, saying duck instead of the big F blank, blank, blank word, you have to laugh or else you're going to cry when you're a mom. And it's a great outlet for it. You should be also a comedian.
Oh, that's sweet.
You should. I think a lot of those stories are really funny.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and that's kind of it. Is kind of I've never really fit into anything myself with this Mom Said Duck stuff. And in fact, I was kind of like thinking about the path of like comedian as well. And so I really kind of immersed myself in the local comedian scene a comedy scene in Windsor in terms of like going to see shows and stuff like that. And oh my gosh, first of all, you actually just posted something recently. You went to a show,
at a dispensary.
Oh my gosh, why can't I think of his Instagram handle? I went there too. Not the night that you did, but on a different night. Formerly Petty Pete.
Yes.
You know what I'm about, I think is his Instagram handle.
His name's Dre.
Oh yes, Dre. Andre.
You know what I'm about.
You know what I'm about. Dre. Yeah. He's awesome. So
he is so funny.
Yeah, so we've connected and stuff and he's been great. And I actually met him through Osmosis Glow, Shay through Osmosis Glow. who did the sign for my husband's office. So, Windsor's so connected, right? I think it's 4 degrees of separation or something like that. Yeah, it's like 1 degree, I think, in Windsor.
It is.
And so, so I started going to like shows and stuff and like was just so impressed by the Windsor comedy scene. And you have to get out. If you haven't seen a comedy show in Windsor, you have to go.
It's just slowly coming back because we used to be huge and then it died down and now it's coming back again.
I didn't know that I had no idea.
Oh yeah,
about that.
We used to have a lot of fun back when I was younger.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that it's back. And anyway, so I was going to see some of these shows and I thought, I can't do what they do. Like,
yes, you can.
It's just like, I'm trying to take the work that I've done already and turn it into something. And it just, they go up there and they say a bit and it's just like how they segue and stuff like that. Like, I needed to test the waters just to see what they were doing to see if I could do it, and it just didn't fit. But that's okay. I think that Mom Said Duck is very much a crossover of like poetry and comedy and spoken word and written word. It's kind of like its own mishmash of something, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I don't fit in, and that's okay.
Yeah,
like it's my own thing, and that's kind of maybe a good thing.
Are you thinking of writing it all into a book?
I am, but because I write new poems all the time, it just seems unfinished. Like I feel like if I were to, go through the process of doing that, let's say it took a year or something, well, I've written several more poems since, right? So until I tap out of that, like I just don't have any more poems to write or whatever the case is.
Now, okay, we've talked about the corn poop and the baby toes and that. What are some of the themes?
Yeah, so it's like it's like everyday stuff. It's like very general stuff or everyday, very specific things. So it could be something like mom guilt, or lying to our kids, or or something as more specific, more sort of micro and dialed into like school lunches or poop diapers or stuff like that.
It could be themed books.
Yeah. When I get to that book part, like I toyed with that at the beginning because it was the most obvious thing, but it just, again, I'm a big believer in the universe. So if everything's kind of saying no, then just move on and kind of move on to the next thing. And what's amazing about this Mom's Night Out with Mom Said Duck, that's what my show is called, in May at Corda, is that it's the first thing that I've done with Mom Said Duck that everything's kind of like happening naturally and organically. And, people are saying, yes, finally, like I've been turned down or ignored for the past 4 years straight. And so like, it's finally sort of like, it feels like this was the right next step. So I'm super nervous. I'm just as excited as I am nervous. So I almost don't even know what to expect because I've never done anything like this before. I'd never written poems leading up to this. I've certainly never stood on a stage and said poems to an audience of moms leading up to this. So I'm super nervous, but I think I just need to sort of like, take a big deep breath. And I did this for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I created this event, so I could say these poems. So just say them.
I mean, a lot of the people you're going to know, and as you can see by these little lights, the lights on that stage are going to be much brighter, so you're pretty much going to see just your friends and family in the front. And you're also a barista, so you're used to talking to strangers and people. You can do this.
Yeah, it'll be a little different, like I have to hold the crowd for however long, I'm up there kind of thing. So,
although I'm saying this and I couldn't do it.
I actually, you've probably heard that the people's biggest fear in life, like, according to all of these like stats or whatever, is that number one fear is public speaking, followed number 2 by death. So people would rather die than public speak, which I think is really funny. And so, that's not me. I've always really loved public speaking. I kind of, I find reasons to public speak, kind of thing. And so it's something I'm comfortable with that I enjoy. And so I just have to kind of lean into that. And I think that we all have sort of different superpowers and stuff like that. And so I think that the fact that I enjoy doing that, I just need to sort of lean into it. These are the conversations. I'm driving here, like having these conversations in my head. So if you're like, okay, listening to all the like motivation podcasts there are, you can do this. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
But that's okay. You do whatever you have to do to get there. Me, it's, a bottle of wine and some stuff that I bought at the dispensary.
Yeah. Well, don't think that backstage I won't be like having shots and
bring a few gummies.
Yeah. That'll be for after the show. But yeah, for sure.
It's going to be great. Everybody likes these kind of poems. Whether you're a parent or not, everybody can relate because we've babysat sometime in our life. So the Cortisone Theater, it holds what, about 90, 100 people?
Yeah, so it's fire marshaled for 100.
Yeah.
And so there will be 75-ish people there that night. Yeah, I didn't want it to
That's
be
a
so
perfect
crowded that we were
start.
like sardined in there, but
Yeah.
yeah. So.
That's a perfect start, and then it's going to grow.
Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
will.
I just, my biggest fear is death. Not even necessarily like, I'm actually excited to see that I believe in, the other side and that kind of stuff, right? And so I'm excited about seeing the people that I've lost, but I'm scared to death of not living while I'm here. And so I want to show my kids that, things can be scary and they can be hard and all these kinds of things, but you can still do it. And who cares what other people think? And, and if I'm going, and especially at, my show at Cortisone, like you said, I'm going to know so many people there. And there are so many people that I don't know, which is so fun too. Like I loved that people scooped up tickets that don't know me and I don't know them. I thought that was really cool.
That is.
But the fact that I'm able to sort of go out there and do what I need to do and sort of rip that proverbial Band-Aid off with my friends and family there, it's terrifying because being in front of your friends and family is almost harder. But at the same time, if I literally fall or proverbial or, what do you call that? You slip, you don't do as well as you wanted to do, that kind of thing. At least you're surrounded by loved ones who are going to tell you,
they're going to tell you you're great anyways.
Exactly. Which is, maybe I'll need that. Maybe I do. Maybe I do stumble and fall or whatever the case. But either way, it's something I need to do for myself. It's been in my heart and on my mind for a long time. I finally just got it out into the open when I went to Timber Plum, Marky Tuckett's one of her events. And I decided at one of her events, I'm just going to say out loud to these wonderful women who are super supportive about my idea about saying my poems on stage at Corda. I knew it was going to be at Corda because the office being there and stuff like that. It's such a cool venue and such a cool theater. And so everybody I told that night, they're like, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. You need to do it. I need to know when tickets go on sale and da-da-da, right? So sometimes you just need that little push to be like, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do it. So yeah.
And the first one's always the hardest.
For sure. And
always the hardest.
Yeah.
You can gauge by the audience reactions which ones are really good and maybe put those aside for a book or for another night and
yeah, exactly.
keep going.
Yeah. That's the goal. Like, I mean, I'm going into it with a mindset where I'm trying to give myself grace, knowing that, there will be things that I fumble and mumble and all this kind of stuff, but that's okay. This is the first time you do anything, stuff like that's going to happen. So,
and that's okay. Perfect's boring.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have a ton of stuff to write about because your kids are still growing up and
yeah.
Oh, you haven't even hit the teen years.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah, there aren't any poems yet about puberty or any of these kinds of things.
That's a whole thing unto itself.
This is what I hear. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing about the book too, is like, I just don't know when I'm going to be ready yet. So, when I feel that push or whatever, then I'll look into that. But yeah, it's just not there yet.
But it's nice to have all those options, whether you restart up your podcast, which I think is a great idea. Your Fridays and
Fresh Poem Friday. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fresh Poem Friday. I don't know why I want to call it Freebie Fridays.
Freebie Fridays. It is free. They're free. So yeah, that's probably why you're thinking.
Start charging. They're good.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing of it. I think it's, after 4 years, it's like I feel everything has evolved so organically and naturally that after 4 years, I felt comfortable now charging people money to support me, right? I've been sort of, they say giving away your gift. I've been giving it away now for 4 years. And so it's like, okay, like I'm ready to finally, not feel guilty. I'm always kind of like cringy about money. Money and me don't kind of see eye to eye. And so knowing that I've charged people money to come to the show and that they've paid and all that kind of stuff, there's been no guilt whatsoever about it, which tells me I was ready to charge money for the thing.
It's
time. What I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is good. This is awesome.
Aw, thank you.
I'm really excited to see it now that I found out I can go.
Yeah, of course. You're totally invited. You're VIP, baby.
Yeah. As I said, she is also a barista at Anchor Coffee House.
I know, I was just about to say.
So, yeah, never mind.
It was gifted to me. You
can't say no to a freebie.
Yeah.
Have you tried out any of the poems on the people you work with?
Oh, the people that... Anchor is... We could do an entire podcast on how amazing Anchor Coffee House is. Like, when I reached out to them about working there, I knew it was a special place because you go in and you just get a nice vibe.
Yeah.
The coffee's incredible, food's great, staff's always so sweet and kind, and all that kind of stuff. I knew it was special, and then I started working there, and I'm telling you, we could do a whole podcast on why they're so successful. They pour love into everything that they do, and it's just like, it is such an honor to work there. Like, they're just like the owners, all the staff, like everybody is fabulous. And so they're super supportive of Mom Said Duck. In fact, Rachel, the owner and the brainchild behind, which I love because she's a woman and I'm like a feminist, and so the fact that all the meat and potatoes of this of Anchor come from Rachel. And she asked me if I would do a little thing on their chalkboard. They have their little chalkboard thing there. So I wrote a little thing for Easter about scones and the Easter bunny and stuff. And so they're always, she is a newsletter subscriber too. And that was the other thing too. When I knew that I didn't want to go back to my old life of HR and labor relations and corporate setting and all this kind of stuff. I knew that whatever was next for me as it related to working was going to be a place that I felt comfortable and that I could, sort of hone in on my Mom Said Duck stuff, not sort of hide it or shy away from it or something like I would have had to have done if I, were back in like that corporate setting or whatever. So, I made the conscious effort to be in a place that I thought would bring me peace and happiness and joy and love and all that kind of stuff. And it's been that tenfold by a landslide. They're just the most amazing people. And then I'm actually the only one there who has kids. And so my kids are like obsessed with Anchor. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. They're so cute. And so they got to see the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. So it's been, and my husband, every time I work, he's in there, grabbing a coffee or whatever. So he's kind of like, part of the crew now and stuff. Yeah. And like, it's just such a, oh my gosh, it's like, they've become like a second family to me. So thank you, Anchor. Love you guys.
Being a barista is
you were a barista.
I was, yes, it was at corporate Starbucks, but I'll tell you one thing, I loved it because you can be creative and also just the amount of people. It really helps you get over if you ever have a fear of talking to strangers, talking to people, because just connecting with either the same people every day, the same customers, and they really appreciate if you remember them or getting to know the new ones. It's a lot of fun, and that probably helps a little bit with the stage fright because you're always on.
To be honest with you, that's like the thing I found the easiest. Like, that's kind of who I am by nature.
You're ready.
My mom, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
I said me, I'm the complete opposite.
Oh, okay.
So that's awesome.
Okay, I would never have guessed that. So, okay. My mom, my whole life, I just grew up watching my mom talking to strangers. Just everywhere we went, it's kind of like a running joke. She can just, talk to the wall and it'll talk back to her kind of thing. And so I just grew up seeing that, and it was just sort of a natural thing, I think, for me to see. And so I just kind of grew up the same way. And so that is just like, that's my favorite part. That wasn't something I had to learn. It was just like, I was like this. I mean, like, I'll go in there, and I mean, sometimes that place is like lined up literally out the door. And I love that people wait in line to still get their coffee. We'll have regulars at the very back of the line who come in every day, and that just amazes me, the fact that they're there on such a busy day, and they're still willing to wait.
That says a lot about the staff, because I've worked at Tim Hortons, I've worked at Starbucks, and people are willing to wait. They don't care how long it is if they're going to get good service. And I think sometimes they care more about the service than what they do, the actual product. And so if they're waiting out the door, that's a combination of all of them, because I've been to Anchor. Anchor has amazing beverages. Their pastries, I try not to go in there too much because there's
try working there, yeah.
Oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But they are great. So that is a testament to what a great place Anchor is.
They just, every single good thing that comes their way is like so well deserved. And they're just so like such great community people too, community leaders, and just, other cafes open and they're promoting the other cafe. Like, what a flex.
Yes.
I just like, Rachel putting out all of her recipes on her blog, nothing sort of is held to their chest. They're just so very like, it's appreciated and it makes them beloved in the city. And quite honestly, I like that about them the best, is that they're so supportive of everybody else and all the other small businesses, whether they're coffee houses, tea houses, or Smudge next door. They're just
and supportive of all of their employees.
Oh, for sure. Everyone in there is sort of creative in their own way, and they harness that so much. It's just and it's everything's so natural and organic. Nothing is forced. It's just who they are. They're just such good humans. It's just who they are. So I just feel so grateful and lucky to be part of that crew.
So it really is a blessing that job just went away so that you were able to find anchor, find your voice again in the poetic way. And
yeah, it was hard for me to come to terms with that. Yeah. Like
the good things usually are, though.
Yeah. Yep. I refer to it as like an acute depression. I had like acute depression for a short period of time because of it. I really had a hard time with it at first, but you're right. Like, I mean, you know, I knew, I'm like, okay, whatever happens, just let it sort of like, whatever sort of messages come from the universe or whatever, just sort of take it and run with it. And so, and don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of things that have not gone well with Mom Said Duck, you know, so a lot of things that I look back and those cringe moments and stuff, but you have to, I really
That's
believe you have to
learning.
go through those cringy things, those things that, you know, give you a thicker skin to make it to the other side. So,
Oh, it's true. Change is the scariest thing. And then, like, nothing comes out perfect. If it comes out perfect, chances are there probably is something wrong, a little wrong with it. You're going to stumble. You're going to fall. I've done it with this in every other career that I've had in my 54 years, and there's been a lot of them. So, I mean, you're finding your grounding, and you're getting to a really good place, and now you're at the cortisone theater, baby. Yay!
So exciting. I'm so excited.
And when is that again?
So it's Friday, May 10th.
10th.
Yep.
And tickets are sold out, and it is the one and done show for right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm going to reevaluate afterward and kind of see, you know, how did I feel? Like, you know, this is all so new to me too, right? So I think this is what I want to do. I'm sort of leaning into the fear and the excitement of it all. And then, you know, who knows? Maybe I come out and go, okay, I did not like that, or whatever the case is. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I don't either.
Yeah, but who knows? You know. So I'm doing it. I don't. None of us know what will happen to us. I actually just found out today that my little cousin died last night. Yeah, she was 26 years old. Yeah. And so it was just kind of another reminder of like, you just never know. You just never know. And I just want to be able to do this. I want to do this thing and get it done and say, okay, I did it. Now what, you know, kind of thing. So, and then, yeah, now that I have kids, it's like, I don't want to just talk about stuff. I want to show them. And they're actually, I've been toying with the idea of having them there because, Mom Said Duck is like, it's talked about in my house like it's like a pet. Like it's so just part of our lives.
It is a duck.
Yeah. Well, a funny little story is that, so my daughter's 10, my little guy's 6. And for the longest time, my daughter would say, why did you call it Mom Said Duck? We don't have a duck. We have a cat. Why didn't you call it Mom Said Cat? And I would always be like, Violet, you're totally right. Like, what was I thinking? Why didn't I call it Mom Said Cat, you know? And of course, if Mom Said Duck, if you type the F word into a text message, it autocorrects to duck. That's where the name comes from.
Because we say duck a lot when we're mommies.
Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, so it's just so much a part of our lives that, and even like, you know, I was about to write the grant. I was about to sit down and write the grant. And I'm a very passionate person. I feel a lot. And so I started to cry before I started to write the grant because I'm like, oh my God, am I really going to do this? What if I get it? Like, what if it actually happens, you know, kind of thing. And so, I'm not bawling or anything, but like the tears are kind of streaming down my face. And my daughter looked over and said, Mommy, are you crying? And I said, yeah, I'm crying. She said, why are you crying? And I said, because I'm about to do something really scary for Mom Said Duck, and I want to do it, but I'm just really scared about it. And she said, oh, don't cry. We're here for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
How old is she?
10.
Oh.
Yeah. She was 9 at the time, but yeah, like, and so just, you know, there's so much a part of it, you know, that it's like, I think as much as it may send them to therapy, having them there and hearing these poems. At the same time, I think it's really important that they're there because kids sort of get left out of stuff like that. I don't want them to see the recording of it. I want them to see the real deal and feel that energy.
Oh,
you know, the stuff that you can't see on the screen that, you know, you have to feel it to be there the way you feel it. So
see that mommy scared a little bit before she gets on, and I think it would be good.
I think so too.
You can also say afterward, this is what you do.
Yeah, right. And so, like I said, it may send them to therapy one day, but
it may not.
Yeah.
It may also give them the courage to go out and do something really scary.
That's my hope. That's my goal. And so that's why I keep thinking that, yeah, maybe they should be there that night. It's an adults only show. There will be booze, specialty cocktails there that night. Yep. What's popping is, or what's poppin', sorry, is going to be donating 100 cone popcorn things. I don't know, little bags of popcorn. And there'll be half of them will be blue and half of them will be pink.
Nice.
We're gonna have pink and blue drinks, and wine and beer and
Okay.
yeah, we're gonna
very
have like
excited.
so many giveaways. There's like so many people who have agreed to participate in a giveaway.
Yes, the last time I talked to you, you were just starting to get that all situated.
Yeah. So actually leading up to the show, I reached out to Molly Maid Windsor as part of the International Women's Day giveaway. And so I said, would you be interested in oh my gosh, yeah, Candace Parent is her name. She said, oh my gosh, I would be totally interested. Let's do it. So we did that. That was going to be part of my show, but I thought it's kind of fun to do for International Women's Day. What does mom want more than anything other than wine, maybe?
A clean house.
Is a clean house, right?
Yes.
So so we did that. So that was really fun. And then we've got Wolf and Rebel. So Annie from Wolf and Rebel has given me a gift card. Anchor Coffee House is going to be donating something. Angela Unholzer. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of her? She's a massage therapist on Ottawa Street. She's donating a free massage. I've got like a special one that I'm not talking about to anybody yet that we'll be giving away. So we've got lots of fun little giveaways we'll be giving away that night too. So if you snagged a ticket,
yay. And if not, make sure that you do follow Mom Said Duck on Instagram and Facebook and sign up for the Friday newsletters.
Fresh Pop Friday, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And make sure that you follow her because we all need a little laugh. We all are going through the same thing at different stages of momhood.
Yeah. Some people are just better at hiding it.
Or even life in general. I mean,
Life in general. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's I think one of my superpowers too, is I've always been vulnerable. I've always been willing to sort of tell the messy side of my life. You know, it gets me in trouble in terms of, people will walk away and, oh my gosh, did you hear what she said? She did this, or she admitted to da-da-da-da. And it's like, well, yeah, but you did it too. You just didn't admit it,
Exactly.
So I've kind of that's always been like a little bit of a catch-22 for me, where it's like, I don't mind being vulnerable. It's who I am, but it does, people use it against you too. So, but I forget about them. I try to kind of keep stepping into it
positivity.
I realize that, that's their thing. They can kind of pretend that life is perfect in their Instagram world. That's just not.
And you know what? At the end of the day, they may not show it, but they probably are happy to know that, yeah, somebody else is going through it too. They just don't want it.
I think so. And I think that's like the beauty of social media too. Like, it's such a double-edged sword. And I think that's my favorite thing about social media is, especially now that we've sort of like all realized like all these filters and all this, perfection is not, blah, blah, blah. Like we've kind of all come to terms with all these things. And it's like, I think that's my favorite thing about social media is like you read a quote or like you see something or whatever and you totally relate to it. And you're like, holy shit, I thought, like how do they know that, kind of thing. And it's like, so we've all, okay, so I'm normal, turns out, kind of thing. So yeah,
it is nice. And
to be able to relate.
Unfortunately, none of the filters makes this look good. I've tried.
Give me a break. Yeah, right.
No, seriously, I've tried them and it's just really weird.
Filters are so lame anyway.
They are.
Don't get me wrong. I like to take a good, duck face selfie here and there and throw on a good Instagram filter, Snapchats are my favorite filters, but
I like
it's just for fun.
I need to do Jake's hair filters with the big lips.
Yeah, that's just how I look on the weekends.
You get weekend Botox? Weekend lip filler? Yeah.
It's the sketchy ones that, in someone's basement.
Oh, but Jill, I want to thank you so much for stopping in today and giving us a little peek in
here.
Oh, it's great. And definitely make sure that you follow Jill on Mom Said Duck and Instagram. You have a website as well.
I do, yeah. I have a website.
Yeah, Facebook, and get in on her Friday
Yeah, my Friday poems. Yeah.
I swear to God, I'm never going to get that.
Fresh Poem Friday. No, it's
Fresh
okay. Yeah.
Poem
Friday's
Friday.
my favorite day of the week. So that's why when I chose to put out the poems, I chose Friday because it's always been my favorite day of the week, still is. And I just wanted to come up with something cute and funny to kind of like put it out there or whatever. So yeah, that's where Fresh Poem Friday came from. But yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Follow me and get on the newsletter. And that's where you'll hear about upcoming shows because I have a feeling there will be more. So we'll
You
see.
have to. You can't just be a one and done.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe like you go, you hit him hard on the way in, and call it a day. There we go.
You
I'm
have
just
way
teasing.
too much going on to be a one and done.
Aw, thank you.
But again, my name is Tracy Martins, and I want to thank you so much for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. Make sure that you follow and subscribe, like on any of our platforms or YouTube. Have a good one.